Hi, we're here with Lonnie McRorey. He is a CEO and founder of Framework Science, and he used to be a recruiter, but he's mainly into software development, and he is helping companies hire better, as well as hiring for his own company. And he's a very interesting guy. So I have him here today to interview. And before we get into it, I wanted to put a little shameless plug in for Webull. I use Webull, and it is a stock platform where you exchange stocks. You could have it on your phone or you could have it on your desktop. And if you click below and sign up, put $100 in, you get 2 free stocks. So let's get into it. Hi, Lonnie. How are you today?
Hi, Rachelle. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So how did you get started in recruiting and training recruiters really on how to become better recruiters and work what you and I know as applicant tracking systems, ATSs, but we won't get into too many technical acronyms for the people that don't know that. But yeah, Lonnie, how did you get started and what has been your journey?
All right. So it started at a very young age before there was internet, there was these bulletin boards. And then once, well, my parents, basically, we had a computer since I was 10 years old. My mom was a systems engineer. My dad was a pilot. And so I had access to a computer at a very young age, and my dad was signing up for these bulletin boards, and I was able to log in and find stuff. And then when the internet hit, started becoming a little bit, started having access, I started realizing I could find things. And that research, I started finding once, you got Google came out, and I got really interested in Google and how you were able to, they were indexing a bunch of stuff. And so, well, how do I find things? And I told myself, Boolean, by 1999, I was already, doing a lot of stuff. And just locally, people were asking me questions like, hey, how do I find the following things? That's all you need to put the following Boolean parameter, you're going to find this stuff. Hey, I need to find some people. And that's kind of rolled in. And all of a sudden I got doing some of these kind of sharing of knowledge through.
Before we get any farther, for those who don't know what a Boolean search is, that's when you put in Google, you use and, or, not, you use a parentheses or quotes, and you basically do a string keyword search in Boolean format, and it gives you much better results out of your Google results. So if you guys are new to Boolean, it's been around for, Lonnie, how long? Maybe 30 years?
Yeah, I would say since 2000, 20 years, 21 years.
At least 20, because when I got into recruiting in 2020, I mean, in 2000, I was using Boolean search, and not everyone was doing it. So, and it's so effective. So anyways, you were in the beginning of showing other people how to Boolean search.
Yeah, so the Boolean was just, we were able to filter for information, right? So you were looking for, you want to be able to filter for documents, or then all of a sudden they started saying, hey, can you find resumes, or can you find, events? And then back then people were just throwing things on the web, posting things on the web with no filter. Like they would put the entire employee roster, right on the web. And I'm like, well, this is great information. I'm collecting all this stuff. And so,
meaning like you can recruit people out of the company if they're listing all their employees. It's called poaching in the recruiting world, folks.
Well, not back then. It was the wild, wild west, and you could have access. You could see anything. Nobody knew what the internet was or what it was really used for. And so I took advantage of that, and I kind of started showing some family members, my uncle, and he said, hey, can you completely, help me with digitally convert my company, my mortgage company, and create me a database that I can put all this documentation into the computer so I can have access instead of all this paperwork. And that's how I started. And he was bringing me to some of these, I'm going to say, he started bringing me to some of these meetings he had with other mortgage people, and that's how I started sharing people. Well, here's how you find information about certain information regarding mortgage pricing and stuff like that. You can find stuff on the web. And that's how I got into Boolean search, and I was teaching them. And then one day, actually, Dimitri Bolin, the founder of Hot Jobs, saw me giving this kind of thing, and he thought he thought I was kind of interesting. So he says, "Hey, I'm transitioning out of Hot Jobs." He sold it to Yahoo, and he says, "I got some ideas, and we're going to start up a continuation of Hot Jobs, and it's called." It's kind of like recruiting, social recruiting, but he didn't call it that at the time. And it became aperture.net. And so I went down to Argentina, and this is where we started. I had to train recruiters how to recruit, so we can build a system that the recruiters were going to test. So I had to learn recruiting life cycle, and we were recruiting from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. We were recruiting very high, technical profiles. From Silicon Valley, New York, we were covering different large companies from semiconductors all the way to software companies. We recruited for Yahoo as well, and for Sony, and Texas Instruments, for example, some other, a lot of different services companies as well. Webull Systems, before Webull got taken over by Oracle, right? A hostile takeover back then, and SAP and all that stuff. And so that kind of got me deeper into search, teaching, sharing that knowledge and putting that into the system, and how we're going to be able to collect a lot of data, put inside a database, and how to search inside there. And so recruiting was a path to be able to better understand the workflow, that when you have a job requisition, okay, where do you start looking for candidates? Do you use job boards? Do you go and find candidates? And back then there wasn't LinkedIn. LinkedIn didn't become popular until 2005. And so pre-LinkedIn, pre-Facebook, and I remember when Facebook was just getting started, and it was called The Facebook. And nobody knew how to use Facebook. I was like, okay, so we were looking at everything back then, and we were like 180 recruiters and developers in Buenos Aires, and we're just like, all this new social media stuff was coming out, and we said, well, how are we going to use it? And like, well, what the hell is Twitter, right? And then Twitter came out. We had no idea, but we realized that there were a lot of other business networking platforms. Like, I think it was, there was a couple of them out there, but then all of a sudden LinkedIn started just crushing everybody. We were using Zoom Info. We talked at they were collecting a lot of data back then. The other company I got to meet the owners, was Jigsaw. Jigsaw, you basically purchase points and you can get a contact information. You were exchanging, you could find anybody pretty much. They were just selling data. And so I need to get like 10 engineers. I'll go into Jigsaw, and it was $1 for 5 points, and you can get it was basically $1 a contact. So we were just collecting a lot of data. We were kind of exchanging data. And then as soon as LinkedIn rolled out, I just had such a huge list of contacts that I just uploaded 30,000 contacts and sent invitations through LinkedIn in 2004, and I got in trouble for that. So because
how many did you connect at one time?
I sent out 30,000 invitations in LinkedIn. Almost they called us up like, what are you doing? Well, there was no limitations back then. So that's why I have a lot of contacts today. And
I started using it in 2006, and there was an option where you can go to your Yahoo email, and anybody in the address book you can send invites to. Or if you went to your Gmail, it would give you options, and LinkedIn would literally go scrub your database, show everybody's name with an email, and with one click of a button, boom, it invites all your people. So if they had that as an option, why did they almost put you in detention for it?
No, there was no, but by the way, we were the first 100,000 in the platform, and there was no limitations until they realized that they were getting into trouble by for spamming rules and stuff like that. So I sent out 30,000 invitations in one shot. I've uploaded all these 30,000. You gotta understand, I searched the web for contacts. And so I downloaded. I mean, I found, I was able, okay. So back then, if you
were aggregating, you were collecting wherever you could.
I was collating, aggregating, and I was social engineering for contacts back then. Kind of like you were hacking companies like, hey, Lonnie, can you give me some people out of Oracle? And so now I know it's wrong, right? But back then I was young and I was like, sure, I'll call up Oracle. They'll give me their entire index of contacts of the employee directory. And
did they?
Yeah. I was able to hack Oracle by just calling and just sending this lady some flowers and saying, hey, I'm calling from Borland Software. I need to send, your engineering department the update on the Borland Software updates and stuff like that. She goes, well, I don't know what that is. I said, well, no, just send me the directory. I'll send them an email and with the information. She sent me the whole list.
Oh, you got to the gatekeeper and she just let the whole floodgates out for you.
And I was like, okay. And so when Dimitri found out, he says, man, I said, well, that list back then was worth like at least $30,000 or $40,000 worth back then, the worth. And I just got better and better and better at just collecting data, right? Yeah. And then we uploaded the whole thing inside the system. And so, but then data changes, right? Every 3 months, people move from job to job. So you're always looking for the latest contact information. And so that's why LinkedIn became so popular, right?
Yeah.
Platform, right? And
yeah, because I would have my Rolodex with the old paper with business cards in, and if my friend slash client customer, that I would do business with, if they went to a new company, I couldn't find them again unless I called their cell phone. But a lot of times the company would provide the cell phone. So their cell phone number on their business card didn't work anymore. Their email didn't work anymore. So when LinkedIn came out, you could put your profile on, you give them an email, a personal email usually. And so when you change jobs and you're connected on LinkedIn, you are still connected. You could still get to them because their personal email that they have an account with LinkedIn did not change. And I mean, that is the brilliance of LinkedIn, in my opinion, in the beginning. Well, I got to ditch my Rolodex.
In the beginning, there wasn't a lot of just say restrictions or limitations. I mean, the data was flowing in and out, and it was the wild, wild west. And you were able to extract. You could see the entire index. So one of the things that I was doing is that, okay, so LinkedIn is a website, and when you want to find somebody, you can find profiles through Google, right? So what LinkedIn did is they would put up on their server, outside server, they would have the entire LinkedIn directory in an index, meaning I can go and data mine all those profiles and shift it over to my own database, and all of a sudden I have 50 million, 100 million contacts inside my database. But then they started getting word that all these companies were data mining these indexes with people's information. They shut it down. That's why when you look for custom search engines on Google, you're only seeing the first 100 results, right? And this is where LinkedIn started putting some more, they're just really clamping down on their data, where data was going. You used to be able to export your data, and your data was
is it CVS files?
Yeah, the CSV files, and so what really started, I was like, okay, these guys are starting to get, they know that
savvy. They know that the people that are scrubbing their database.
I mean, I was able to scrape so much data from LinkedIn, it was just ridiculous. But then they start shutting it down.
Didn't they shut it down? The ability to download into a Excel spreadsheet all your contacts, titles, phone numbers, emails. Didn't
You're-
they stop that when Microsoft bought LinkedIn?
Yeah, so what they did was they took out the emails, and all you can only get is their name and where they're at, and you're not, because people would download the entire list and sell their entire list to somebody else. They were making money off their data. So that's, again, but just to go back, my history, I came from that world and I was working and building products. I was in South America for a while. I started the expat community in Paraguay. I was there for a while. I traveled to Turkey. I built one of the first DevOps systems with a Canadian company. I did 3 years of research to create a platform that we can manage the entire IT department with one application. And that was in 2010. And after that, we didn't have success because we had a company called ServiceNow that beat us to the punch, but we were on the right track. We were pretty ahead. I learned a lot. I learned about DevOps. I was more of a product manager than anything else. I became a recruiter because of the product side. It was forcing me to understand the entire experience as a recruiter. So this is what kind of led me to where I'm at today, both the recruiting and the applicant tracking systems and the DevOps systems that I was involved with. I got more into the software engineering side of things and building technology teams that were helping companies bring products to market through an outsourcing model. And then when I started realizing when I was building my own products, I was facing some of these issues that I've never seen before, but then I experienced that outsourcing is a very shady thing. It's a very dark thing. You don't know who you're working with. The quality is not always that great. And the time zone difference is really was really difficult to work with, especially somebody's on the other side of the world. Do they understand the US culture? And so there was a lot of barriers. And also you find out that these people are underpaid, they're overworked. And the business model became a human as a commodity business model, meaning that they're making monies off the backs of other engineers, of other people. And I myself, just 5 years ago, I got so upset that this previous company that I was working with, it was the worst experience of my life. Yeah, but it was a good thing. I need to get so upset and angry that there are companies that take advantage of employees and they treat them really bad because it's a toxic culture. I said, well, I'm so angry right now that I want to change the industry. So that was a flip on my chip and saying, I'm no longer afraid of becoming a business owner because now I know that I can do this better than everybody else here. And so for me, my journey was to get over the fear of becoming a business owner, of not knowing what to do, not knowing that you get so ticked off that, oh yeah, I'm going to eat your lunch. I'm going to do it better than you can because you need to learn a lesson here that we need to treat people with empathy. We need to start giving back to talent, to invest in talent. And so that became my mission. And through the process, I started with my partner here in Mexico, and he went through the same company, same problems and so forth. He says, why don't we bring a new philosophy, a business philosophy? And so we decided that our business model is philanthropic, meaning that all the services, all the money that we generate goes back into the company, goes back into paying the high salaries, have good benefits and everything. And my partner and I, we just get a salary. And some of the salaries, for example, some of the engineers make more money than I do, even though I'm the CEO. Well, that's kind of radical. At the same time, by doing this, it gives us a lot of flexibility to really destroy our competition on pricing. We get to hire the best person, and we give the best deal to our clients. And at the same time, we get to invest in this incredible engine. And people are probably thinking, well, Lonnie, why is there a spacesuit in your office? I said, well, guess what? We need to get back into science. We need to start inspiring young minds. We need to start showing that companies can generate a good impact to the world, meaning a good company index. But there's no greater example of doing the impossible as the NASA space program, now SpaceX, and that's where we're headed. We need to, NASA is all about, I don't care who you are. We want brilliant minds, men, women, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, equal pay, all that. We need to focus on this, on exploration, discovery, and creation. And so this is our mantra. We created a scientific framework that generates certainty, continuity, and predictability, because we took away the most important thing that plagues the world. You take away greed. You take away greed, everybody, we can have an equal footing and build something together. You make money off of ideas, not off the backs of people. That is basically the modern day slave labor.
Yes.
So I'm very passionate about this because we are also, it gives us enough capability that we're also opening here. We're opening we're on a mission, it's called Andromeda. We're trying to bring more women and children, but mainly more women into technology. It's a very male-driven industry. And so, but we can do something about it. We can provide opportunities to those that do not have opportunity. And I think this is where companies are not, they're all saying, oh yeah, we employ women, but what are you doing to really bring more women into technology, right? Are you working with the universities? Are you creating simulations to generate business solutions with the graduates there? And so everybody talks a good game, but I'm not seeing real solutions, people doing solutions. So I want to do something about it. I want to use all that experience that I have, again, going back to search, to recruiting, to DevOps, now to the outsourcing. And I'm trying to basically show that there's a better way and a more responsible and accountable and transparent way with a tremendous amount of empathy that impacts people's lives. Because when people are thriving, they're prospering, they're able to create. You're giving them freedom to create. So why aren't we doing this? Well, if I'm going to leave a mark behind and something I can leave behind, I know that at night I can sleep at night. I'm not here to become a millionaire. That's not necessary anymore. I'm here to also help other people prosper. If I can do it, that's my responsibility. Because
bring back humanity.
It's humanity. I think that's the evolution. I think this is the transition that we're seeing. And then also you can say, well, it's teetering into the political. Well, it is political. I mean, just what we just encountered in the last 5 years or 4 years around the world is just this sheer change, and all those opposed to change. We're here for change. We're here to make things better. We're not here to bash on anybody because they believe certain things, but we're here because of science. And if we have science to guide us on truth, if we are on truth, then a lot more people will be able to be on a level playing field and have opportunity. So I'm very serious about that, but that's how I got here today. We're actually in Baja California. Believe it or not, today we opened our 4th office. We've grown
Awesome.
400%, and I'm using these new recruiting technologies. I've created a system. I'm actually in the process of registering the patent in the United States for human DevOps. We are automating the entire recruiting, onboarding.
Development and operations. That's what DevOps means, guys.
Yeah, development operations, but on the human side. How do we build teams of people, the right people doing the right things at the right time? Right? So again, the objective is to generate certainty, continuity, and predictability. So this is a new level of physics meaning the technologies, everything that we make this new business philosophy happen. And so this
how do your candidates, when you talk to them, what kind of verbiage do you say and use with them, and what's their response? And when they do work for you, do they feel, they must feel like a much bigger part of the company as a whole versus this is just a job. I just go to work, I go home, get my paycheck. So what kind of finesse words do you use? You mentioned transparency earlier. So how are the hiring managers getting the message and changing, and how are the candidates experiencing this change that you present to them?
Right. So I think we can kind of deduce or kind of take that away, because when you have a brand, when you create a brand that stands for something, that your business name in itself stands for something, that is generated impact, it's just like, we want to generate that same feeling that you get when you really apply to NASA and you get a shot. That's the kind of branding. We start with the branding of what we are all about, what we mean, what is our intent as a company. And therefore, when they are getting an introduction into what we do and the reasons why, oh, they're already hooked. They're already hooked because they want to belong to that feeling of, I know what it's like to try to learn something new, to solve problems, and to be the engineer. And I'm, in the industry, the one thing that recruiters hate the most is trying to find a unicorn, right? Or engineers think that they're unicorns, and I'm like, here in this company, we're so real that we eat unicorns for breakfast, because we're engineers, we're scientists, we're these explorers, because we take science, we take science basically as our main vehicle.
Driving force.
Yeah, it's on the driving source. So when they come here, just to answer your question, when we share, we do the entire introduction. They see the videos, they see all those things, where we come from, where we're headed, because we have a mission. And I think a lot of companies fail to really focus on what their mission is. If their mission is making money, that employee is going to feel like just a number, because the rich get richer, or the CEO takes all the money, or whatever, or the venture capitalists take all the benefit, and the employees leave with very little, or they get some profit sharing, but they're still working, their butts off, and they really, they put a lot of hours into something, and they don't really get much out of it at the end of the day. So
yes, I've worked at Broadcom. I've seen that in action.
Okay, so yeah, and I think what is resonating is is not talking a good game, is really meaning what you're really putting show proof that you're all about this. Show them. If you show them and you say, look, here's what we're all about, they can really tag on to that, because they see themselves as being part of that same voyage. It's called, you're building empathy. And if you have a positive thing that you're generating impact, not just saying it, oh, we're a family here. I really don't like when companies say, oh, we're family. I'm sorry, but I cannot fire my mother. I cannot fire my father. I cannot fire my sister. As much as I want to, I can't. So don't mix business. Business is about hitting objectives. If you align with their objective, you align with their culture, if you align with that drive, this is for you. If not, it's not for you. And maybe you want to try it out and it doesn't work out. You focus on your mission. We focus on our mission. But in a day, we're all, again, it's like, does NASA, okay, great. Just think about it. I mean, if NASA was saying, well, we're a big family here, and I'm saying, well, yeah, until they fire you. You know what I mean? So let's take the word family out of the equation.
Yeah.
So I say, but we have respect, we have empathy, we have business values, and then we have impact, and we have an incredible notion of what business should look like, need to look like.
And you're hiring right now, right?
Yeah, well, we just hired, gosh, 16, 18 people in 2 weeks. So we're going at a velocity because of the system that we've created. The platform, we created this platform that enables our clients and ourselves to go inside one platform, look at all the business objectives, look at the requirements, and really dig down to the requirements. And we are reconstructing the requirements into our system because, you know, job descriptions are always overladen and overloaded, and, you know, they want somebody with 30 years experience, 30 years old for $30,000. Okay. That's not going to happen. You
You're
know,
looking for the impossible candidate.
yeah, everybody's Jesus.
When I
uh,
was in Silicon Photonics, which was, 10 gigabit chip, and most people, engineers were working on a megahertz chip. So I would get this job description over 10, you have to have experience working with a over 10 gigabit chip. And I would read the rest of the, must haves, and I'd read them, and I'd already, I worked there for 3 years. I'd already been recruiting and collecting and connecting with Silicon Photonics people, but I literally would read these job descriptions and think, this person hasn't even been born yet.
well,
They're writing a job description and they want everything under the sky, and it just doesn't exist.
they want somebody that has 20 years experience using Node. Node is just fairly new, right? So it is that's what. And also the resumes, by the way, if you look at that's another problem. There's no standardization of resumes. Everything's on the different Word doc, also the information. And that's why applicant tracking systems have the same issues with parsing, meaning you're able to transfer information. When they upload a resume they're applying to a job, that system starts reading their first name, last name, they categorize them and put them inside their database. And then so the recruiters can look at them and then people can find them later on. But there's a big problem with that because there's no standardization. And now we're seeing developers pushing for, there's a company called JSONresume.org. They're an organization that I just found the other day, that they want to standardize all technology resumes into a JSON file, into a JSON format. So all the systems are able to completely absorb their information without any issues, right? So this is what we're also doing, that we're deconstructing the resume and reconstructing the resume, because we do all, first of all, they do a preliminary screen with us, we take notes and we add that to their profile. We're also doing technical screens, and we also do testing. We partner with CoderByte, and CoderByte is a platform that you can send tests out to the engineers, and they have a couple hours, or they have a little test challenge and stuff like that. It records what they do, and so you can kind of evaluate if that engineer aligns or not according to the business objectives and the style of the company. And so having that all into one system, working together, and it's not about hiring somebody. So a lot of people have a misconception that just because, oh, I got the right candidate. Okay, now what? You need to have that candidate have a successful onboarding, meaning that they have an understanding of what the business objective is, what the technology stack is, what the architectural strategy, meaning how they're going to scale their business and technologies, and what they're going to be doing, and get them the first wins. So we categorize all this and we say, okay, let's set up some realistic expectations here, that the candidate understands that, and also that the client understands that. So you're taking away a lot of ambiguity. This is where we're generating on more certainty, going back to our scientific approach, a scientific framework to build teams and take away ambiguity, because we're asking all these questions at the right time to the right people. So we're getting into the science of how we're crafting teams that really get it and want to hit that objective. Not only are they need to have a very good experience, onboarding experience. It doesn't matter if it's a product owner, product manager, or a UX UI person to a data scientist. They need to feel like they're welcome, that they have all the information that they need. They need to walk through that process. And so we got deep into that. What does that mean? What does that look like? What are the experiences that these, the engineers are having, and how we can help these companies improve that? And not only are they, we just hired somebody, we selected, we searched and selected, and we found a match and all that. We got successful onboarding. We need to track how well they're doing. So that's performance. So now you're adding all these components into building a team, getting the team started and sustaining that team and nurturing that team. That's what we call it, human development operations. Not because of a fancy word, it is human DevOps. So I think it's the next generation and by the way, there's a lot of applicant tracking systems, but a lot of the systems are not contextually relevant to the industry, especially for the IT industry or the software engineering industry. The systems are completely cookie cutter, like a square peg into a round hole. You got a great applicant tracking system, but they're very generalistic. Now, there's no real systems to build a technology team. And so that's where we're going. And also through machine learning and AI stuff that we're first, what it's learning is about what are we looking for, the reasons why, and also what makes a candidate good. Not just because they hit all the, the check boxes, they selected all the check boxes, but also all the work that the recruiters did, that even the evaluators did, that the hiring manager, all those comments go into that profile to give it a contextual rank, a meaning to this individual. They might fit for this, it might not fit for that. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person or a bad engineer, but it has to be relevant. And that's the empathy I'm talking about. So this is where we're actually, the things are shifting. And the role of the recruiter is going to change, because as more as your data automation and all these things, you're not so much looking for things or trying to find, just like we started this conversation about what was it like back then, 20 years ago? Well, we didn't have LinkedIn. Now we have almost 20 years of LinkedIn. Now, what are we doing now? No, those things as a recruiter, your role is changing. The recruiter role is going to change because there's more technology. We're going at an exponential rate. So now recruiters are going to become more of a technical liaison. And this individual that is representing the technology team and also the engineer or individuals that are actually trying to connect with the company. So the technical liaison is actually making sure that that individual has a face-to-face contact, has all the testing and documentation and everything like that. So it's more like the point of contact between organization and company. So the recruiting role is going to change, because a lot of the data that you had to search manually or call or socially engineer is just everywhere, right? You're just getting to the candidate faster because you already have all these systems in place. You have, job boards are becoming a little bit more all over. I mean, there's a lot of, but you want to go faster. So companies are still using, so companies are still using traditional and very old and arcane recruiting processes when technology is being developed at an exponential rate. So here's what I saw. This is the problem that I saw, that we're still using old systems to try to keep up with something that's way out there. It's going super fast. We need to recruit faster with greater velocity and greater accuracy, but we're still using the old way of doing things. That's not working. You're just wasting time, and all of a sudden you're wasting opportunities. So if you're saying it takes me 3 months to hire somebody, it should not take you 3 months. It should take you less than a month to hire somebody.
The applicant tracking systems are also frustrating a lot of candidates. There might be a really good candidate, and whatever applicant tracking system they're using, it doesn't parse the whole resume, and then you have to go into every field and add when you started, when you ended the job. And I've gotten, in the past, I've gotten like a third or a halfway through in, and I had already been doing this for 40 minutes, and I would just back out. I'd say, well, the job's not even worth that much to me if I have to go through all these hoops and to get my information in the applicant tracking system. And I'm a recruiter. You know, I've been in recruiting for years. I'm not a recruiter right now, but because I've burnt out on it.
See what I mean? It's because it is a tiring thing. I mean, you gotta go and start you gotta hunt people down, and it's every single day the same thing. And that's when I started noticing, because I've seen it from the beginning when technology started impacting recruiting, and now it's 20 years later. What are we doing with that technology? Is that helping recruiters? No, recruiters are still doing the same stuff like 20 years ago. No wonder we're losing candidates. And by the way, there's enough technology today. And one of the things that I'm actually integrating is that when somebody applies to our jobs, do you want to update your resume? Don't worry. You can connect with us through Slack or through WhatsApp. You can update your profile from your WhatsApp right into our directory, right into your resume. So you can say, hey, I'm doing this, the following thing, just keep in my resume. Click send, it adds that line right into your resume.
So there's, on the back end of your software, there's backlinks, or I'm not sure what the correct word is, but there's modules. So they connect.
When somebody logs into, like, they upload the resume, they become a user. This is for our side, for us to keep the engineers. Okay, so one of the problems that Stack Overflow has, which is a great and wonderful platform, but one of the problems that they have is that nobody updates their profile, and the profiles, the majority of them are outdated. So when I looked at it, I say, hey guys, you have a incredible thing here. You have a lot of registered users, but I don't know where they're working at, right? Or what they're doing, and nobody updates their.
It shows their first time profile when they signed up, and they were straight out of college or still in college in an internship, right?
There's no incentive for them to update their profile. LinkedIn is different because, hey, I'm always looking for opportunities. So I said, well, guess what? There's enough knowledge base and capability that we could, within our system, if somebody uploads their resume, they can connect to our system through WhatsApp. There's, the WhatsApp integration. So they send a message, that message is tied to that resume with that phone number. That phone number then goes to that field and it updates that field where they're currently at, or they just changed jobs, whatever. And so the engineer doesn't have to keep uploading their resume. And then that's why we're talking about, it's standardizing resumes into a JSON file. They can download that sucker directly from our site, and it's already data. The data is already structured in a way that any other system can read it, and it will take your entire resume. That's what I'm talking about. It's like nobody wants to do the hard work to figure this out, to give a better experience to the candidate, through the system, and for the clients to get the right information about their job descriptions. And are they crazy, right? So this is what we're doing because of what I've seen in the last 20 years, and I'm still not seeing real solutions. Oh, recruiting AI. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of them are full of shit. Okay, a lot of them are full of crap. In order to get to AI, you got to do a tremendous amount of ML. There are very few companies who are getting to that area, but we will.
What's ML?
Machine learning.
Machine learning.
Machine learning. So you need to be able to teach it, but to recognize and so forth, and then you can create a artificial intelligence from the machine learning. Right? You need a lot of data. I mean, think about it. People talk about AI. Oh, I want to bring AI, this, and I'm like, dude, you don't even have enough data to, I mean, seriously, you need a lot of data and for it to be accurate. So that's what we built here. So we built, our services, and because of the services, we created a platform for us to be faster, more accurate, provide better experiences, and kind of, we have a goal here. And I think, just to answer the original question, when we tell the candidates, the engineers, I say, oh, by the way, not only do we build technologies for other companies, but we are innovating our own industry. And here's the patent that we're registering. And so that gets them excited because, oh, we're just not another company looking to make profit off their backs. We are into science.
And then are you giving them some stock options for if you were to go public?
Well, I don't, stock options. No, we're not going to go public. I know more than likely we're already getting a lot of interest because we're ahead of the game on some other companies are actually funded by Google.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're really livid. They got $30 million and they're like, what are you doing? Yeah, we're like 2 years ahead of you guys.
What company?
I can't say it. It's a Google backed company that they've been trying to acquire us, and I shut them down because we have a different approach. They want us out of the way, but I know we're onto something. But I think we're going to go through a mergers. I want to invest into the product, and I think we're far away from that. But once we get to that point, our product is completely disconnected from our services. So yeah, the people that were working within the system, and once we get to that stage, the new structure of that product for higher rocket is going to have those options as well. Of being, if they're putting a lot of, brain power behind it, they should get some sort of equity. I totally agree.
Okay. Good. Now, can you tell me how this hiring process and your work day and your coworkers' work days have changed since we've entered in this pandemic lifestyle? We're already a year and a few months into it, and there's more Zoom calls, but how is it affecting your business?
I think believe it or not, when you build technology, that you got to find a balance between focusing, but still have the human interaction component, and especially if we're building products. So for the software industry, I personally think that output went up right, because there's less distractions in the office. The engineers can focus, but also that necessity, just because of our nature, we need to see each other in person. We can see each other in video, but there's a connection there, a more of a magnetic, more of a real energy connection. When you're with a room with people, you kind of sense it, you feel it. And when you're talking about a new idea, everybody, you kind of read the body, and you kind of have a greater, I think it has deeper meaning when we have, these face to face. And I think a lot of people are missing that, where it's outside of our norm. We're social creatures. We were designed that way, and I think not having that is impacting on creativity as well. Even though we can get more done, I think at the end of the day, we miss our
brainstorming.
Well,
there's a lot of non-verbal and verbal exchanges, and also convenience in walking by someone in the hallway.
Yeah,
Hey, we got a meeting at 4. I want to talk to you about this. I put a paper on your desk. See you at 4. You can't do that in a Zoom call. Yeah, you can, message the person through Slack or wherever, right? And say,
all right, like who was the smart person to microwave fish at the office today? It's like
you missed that?
No, I do not miss that at all. But also kind of ragging on people, but the joking, and oh, hey, did you catch that? But I think that's where our productivity went up, because everybody's working from home, getting their things done. There's not a lot of distractions, especially for engineers. They want to focus on things. But I did notice that everybody's so anxious to get back to see each other. It's not you're just working, but also you're in this journey together, but you're digitally, now you're physically separated, digitally connected, but it's not the same. The physical connection is, I think, that we're missing, and it's driving people crazy. I think it's actually creating, now we had a year, okay, before a year, oh, I'm fine with doing remote work. A year later, they're going, we could do hybrid. They're going to say, well, yeah, we're going to go back into our offices. Yeah, I think we can do hybrid. I think it's good to work from home, get shit done, and also go to the office and have your meeting and do your ideation on product or what's your next or your sales, marketing, whatever. I think that I think we're going to see this hybrid model. I don't think a lot of I think companies are going to go back to they're going to start realizing that they will have to go at least minimum hybrid because of this necessity.
Someone has a phone call. Yeah, as far as hybrid goes, I think that will be the majority. There has been a few companies that have announced that they're going to keep all their employees working from home. And then they get to shut down their corporate office. They save money on rent for a corporate office. And so there's some benefits. These corporations are weighing them out.
Yeah. Well, we will see. But I think let's see what happens here. They're saying that they're opening the border between Mexico and the United States here in May, which would be cool. But I still think that we're going to have still some good amount of distancing for the next 2 years. There's a lot of different, right? So there's going to be, but we'll see.
Not over, folks. So you mentioned the border, Baja. You are living in Mexico right now, right?
I live in Baja California. I'm right next door to San Diego. And believe it or not, Tijuana became like the fourth fastest growing city in Mexico. They're building 50 buildings here in the city. It became very hipster town. There's a lot of breweries now. There's a lot of Americans living here. Mexico has the most amount of Americans living outside the United States in Mexico. But Baja California is a really strange, it's a different type of just say part of Mexico, because you got the Baja 1000. This is just absolutely gorgeous to live here. The cost of living, but there's a lot of Americans living here. So you got a lot of cross-cultural things. You have I belong to the expat community here in TJ, and it's just, there are just so many. I mean, rent is expensive in San Diego and Los Angeles, and
yeah,
we're just escaping that. There's an exodus. But if you have Century Pass, you can cross the border. You're there, and you're zipping in and out in 20 minutes. And so a lot of them are opting out. Instead of paying $3,000-4,000 a month on rent, they can get for $1,500. You have a mansion on this side, and you're living good. You're like, you can live on the beach. I mean, I was paying. We were on the beach here in Playas in TJ, right? But you can actually see San Diego from where I was at for $500 a month. It was a 2-bedroom apartment right there on the beach, which is awesome. You got everything. You got Costco, you got Walmart, you got Home Depot.
And here, I live 3 miles from the beach. If I lived across from the beach, my rent would probably be at least 6 to 10 grand, maybe.
Well, you see, what kind of jobs do you have to be able to support that kind of lifestyle, right? So what are the jobs? And by the way, the salaries are not really,
80 to 120. That's pretty much the top notch in corporations that I've seen. If you're a very, very, very exceptional engineer, like in Silicon Photonics on the photonic side, the light side, okay, 140K. But that's really kind of the zone, 90 to 140K.
Yeah. That's, we're going to see some changes here, but we're not going to see dramatic changes for a while. They're still dealing with, minimum wage, and there's inequality there, but anyways.
Yeah. Now, as far as the empathy hires, this country is lacking in a lot of empathy. So, when you talk about having an empathetic approach. How, do you get a good response from it? Do people even know what empathy is, or if you're an empath, or that side of it?
Okay, so empathy is basically putting yourself in the shoes of that individual and feeling their pain, even though you might not have a lot of context. But I think if you're designing systems or processes, and it's not always about the money, but also sometimes by focusing on what that experience is on the individuals within that process, you're able to generate more empathy as an organization as a whole. And in the long term, your return on investment or your output as a company is even higher, because everybody is understood. Everybody wants to be understood. No matter how wrong they are, they just want to be understood. Listen to me. Okay, you're wrong, but I'm listening to you. I feel you. But just having that kind of empathy, it's a good start. We get rid of all our issues and problems, having empathy and not feeling, oh, I'm like this way and because my daddy was that way, my grandfather, and we did it this way. That's why we need to have these icons that represent this, and those icons and those flags represent something completely different for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And they like, why are we still having these icons? And I without getting into the racial stuff.
Yeah. Let's away from that.
So yeah, I mean, I was young. I spoke Spanish, and I saw the racism, because I spoke Spanish. I was called a lot of names when I was a kid, and that is also a lack of empathy, right? So if you have empathy, people are practicing empathy, even from at the organizational level, at the company level. It also helps understand different people are just people at the end of the day. Just our melatonin is different,
Yeah.
Our tone, our skin.
Sarah, you were telling me on a different conversation about serotonin and dopamine.
What do you mean?
Oh, different person. Anyways, but yeah, so I guess it's like a family, but without a family member, true blood, right? You're trying to keep the group as adhesive and happy, because we all know the price of someone leaving and then having to rehire. That means the recruiter has to spend weeks once again to backfill that position. So if you do your due diligence on the front end and you have a, let's call it, an empathy hire or a compassionate hire, meaning like you bring them into the fold and you don't just say, here's your tasks and do them. You join them in with other groups, and you're trying to get everyone aware of different projects and on the same mission, versus a large company like Texas Instruments or Intel, where when I was recruiting for some of those silicon photonics people out of Intel, they would work on one little tiny slice of the whole big picture. And I'm working for a startup with 45 people that we got up to about 90 people in 3 years, where I was just cherry picking the best PhD, masters, doctorates. And literally, if I called Intel and I wanted to get someone that was really good on the digital side or the optical side, they would know only this much. And sometimes we'd fly them out and interview them, have 6 people interview them, 45 minutes each. At the end of the day, we'd all talk about how the interview went. And that person didn't know that much. They knew the slice of the pie, but it was a very small slice of the pie. When you work at a smaller company, you work on almost the whole pie. It's so how big is your company, by the way?
We're crossing over 100 now.
Okay.
But you just raised an incredible point that we were just discussing, is that part of the process is preparing the engineer to better understand what the company's all about, but not ourselves, but also our clients, that they are prepared. That, oh, here, you have an interview here, and no, just that the recruiter needs to prepare. Hey, here's what you're going to be facing tomorrow. Are you ready? Have your, help them align. And a lot of engineers are not used to doing, board presentations, because that's what, like, the interview feels like. But, you need to be able to articulate your value proposition effectively to the hiring manager. So I call it the technical liaison needs to prepare that engineer to be able to have that conversation, to basically, I understand where you guys are headed at. And that's part of the and I think we're losing that. We're losing, everything's so kind of machine-like that we're losing that human touch, and get them excited, right? I think that's still part of that process.
Well, I'm glad you're around to make your big attempt at a paradigm shift, and I wish you much success. I think you already have success, and you're on the train, the right train, and you have plenty of fuel to keep going. And I'm, we didn't get into it, but I do respect you for volunteering. Do you want to talk about some of your volunteering projects?
Volunteer, well, we help out the San Diego, community, the tech community in San Diego as well. We participate, well, we start up our association here in Baja California to help more women get into technology, children, coding, and all that stuff. So we're getting that started. So we are avid on that. We give back to the community, and San Diego Tech Hub, for example, the guys at Walmart Labs and all that. So we participate. Right now, because of the pandemic, it was really difficult for us to be physically present, because of the restrictions in the pandemic. But we're getting back into it slowly once we cross that vaccine threshold, and we're able to get over there more often.
Yeah. And I respect you trying to bring more women into the fold. My mom got a job at Lockheed Missiles and Space Company before they merged with Lockheed Martin. So don't correct me. She worked at Lockheed for 36 years, since she was 19.
Wow.
And she retired.
That's impressive.
And I went to their 25-year anniversary in Sunnyvale, and they had a fake Pathfinder, the Mars rover, or they had the rocks that looked like the actual, they basically did a mock-up. And then I remember getting the tour of the missile. Oh my gosh, my eyes could not focus really to the top of this building where this very long missile was in, and they're building on it, and there's scaffolding up and down the sides, rolling around to build this missile. So I find I am very pulled to science, because my mom worked at Lockheed. She was so excited when, they made the stealth bomber and the scuttle, remember Desert Storm with the scuttles? I don't know, some kind of ammo. Anyways, and they did a lot of collaborations with NASA.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Lockheed and NASA.
Well, think about it. We never built technologies. NASA was the first one. We have to get a man to space. So we had to create something that was never created before. So we had to create all these technologies that were never created before in a very short period of time. So that's why NASA is like, well, we don't care where you come from. I just want your brain. So we brought the brightest minds, mathematicians, and everything like that. It just didn't matter. I mean, they had an objective. They had to create a spacesuit. This is a replica, by the way. because if I want a real one, it costs me $1 million.
Yeah.
So this came out of Hollywood. But anyways, we have technology that we have today because of the space program. And that's what I'm saying. What do we represent? What are we representing as a business? And so we're saying, okay, we're here about creating new things, exploring the unknown. If we're not doing those things, because like John F. Kennedy said, we don't do them because they're easy. We do things because they're hard. And that's how you change the world, by doing the hard things. So there's the one positive key, I think one takeaway from all this is that when we have a common goal, there are no barriers. Everybody's on the same team. And I think we can learn a lot when we have a much larger goal than just worried about picking on each other for some bull crap. We need to look at the objective here. What are we trying to achieve? There's so many problems that need to be solved. And we're worried about because this person this and that person that, you know. So that's why these companies, you know, bring everybody together, because they want the smartest and the you know, brilliant, so we can allow everybody else to prosper, right? So that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Well, how can people reach you? You want to let them know, because there might be some brilliant engineers that want to come work for you.
Yeah. So of course, you know, you can find me through fwscience.com, or you can look me up in LinkedIn. And my LinkedIn profile is very, very simple. When you see that LinkedIn/n/Lonnie, that tells you,
Gotcha.
tells you how old I am. That I was the first Lonnie in the entire system.
Awesome. Yeah, I got my first initial and my last name. I was like, oh, that works for me.
No, I'm literally just Lonnie.
Lonnie.
Wow.
Kind of like Tom at Facebook. Remember
Right?
Space, right? When you log in, you're like, you got your first friend and he's sitting at the desk and like, who's this guy, Tom?
Tom is like 80 years old now. If you look at his pictures from
Or MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah, I think is that still around? It's still, I don't know.
It is. It's a musical platform.
Oh,
I work for 2 internet companies in North Orange County, and I had to coach people, recruit people out of internet companies. And yeah, MySpace is still going on in LA. But they're a musical platform. There's all these real artist wannabes, and it's literally changed. It's a music platform now.
You know, it's really interesting. We were seeing that I think Yahoo is going to get a resurgence. They're coming up with some new technologies finally, and that's kind of interesting to see. I think Facebook is getting really a good beat down, and you know, Mark is kind of frustrated. I personally believe that Facebook is going through a change, and
I haven't been using it as much.
I haven't, and more people are like, okay, we're done. You know, it's been almost 20 years now with those guys. You know, like what, 15? Yeah, so it's 15 years. 2005, they got somewhat notoriety. Yeah, to 16 years, and then, you know, there are other things. You know, now everyone's on TikTok, right? Which, nah, I just that's not for me.
That's COVID time.
Yeah, so they can find me there. They can find me on Forbes. They can look at Lonnie McRorey at Forbes on Google, and they can see.
I'm going to put the links down below where you can find Lonnie, and also contact him about a job and look at the jobs that they have posted and see if you guys have a fit. If you are a match, then, you know, you should reach out to Lonnie. Reach out to him directly on WhatsApp. How do they do that? Just kidding.
No, it's better just to connect and kind of have some context. I mean, we operate out of Mexico, and there's some engineers who want to live over here and work from here and so forth. It's
it's a good opportunity to just get out of America for a little while and live the expat world. You know, you and I had talked about that. That was gonna be my plan A if our politics, if politics keep going crappy, I'm gonna jet out of here for 3 to 5
I
just
did.
for the heck of it.
So I have to get going. I have like 30 people trying to get a hold of me right now.
Okay, well, I'm glad you were here with me today and we got some exposure for your company. Very fascinating person to talk to. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and keep going with your business. It's gonna take off like a rocket ship.
Yeah, fourth office. Yeah, so we're pretty excited. That's why they're calling me. They just signed the agreement and everything, so we're opening up today. Our
All
fourth.
right, onward.
That's why they were calling me. I'm like going, oh, hold on, I'm still in the call.
Ah.
All right.
Okay, go get your stuff done. Okay.
All right, Rachelle, it was awesome.
Okay.
Great to
Thank
talk
you
to
so much.